Kurtop here, and these are 100 facts about the past that can't be explained. Medieval astronaut. In 1993, European and American magazines published sensational news. An image of an astronaut was discovered among the stone carvings of the Salamanca Cathedral, Spain. Construction of the cathedral began in 1513 and was completed in 1733. Journalists and readers actively discussed how people in the 18th century could have learned about the existence of spacesuits. A variety of theories were proposed, from the artist's foresight to a visit from aliens. However, enthusiasts were in for a surprise. The astronaut figure turned out to be an ordinary prank. There is a tradition among European stone carvers to add new details during the restoration of buildings. In 1992, during the restoration of the cathedral, a stone carver named Geronimo Garcia, with the unofficial permission of the church leadership, added several new figures to the facade, including an astronaut. This tradition revives historical buildings and adds a modern touch to them. The Salamanca case reminds us that past and present can be surprisingly intertwined, and restorers often leave their mark on future generations. Egyptian sarcophagus and the Simpsons. Archaeologists have discovered something unique in an Egyptian tomb, a 3,500-year-old sarcophagus depicting Marge Simpson from the popular modern animated series. The lid of the sarcophagus depicts a yellow-skinned woman wearing a green dress and a blue crown, reminiscent of Marge's famous hairstyle. But in fact, the sarcophagus belongs to the New Kingdom and depicts the goddess Nut. The tomb belonged to a 16-year-old girl whose parents probably did not have much money. However, they tried to do everything possible for a dignified burial of their daughter. As for such a coincidence, there are two options. Either the Egyptians predicted The Simpsons, or the creator of the series, Matt Groening, has secret knowledge about ancient cultures. Also, amulets, jewelry, and stone and wooden sarcophagi were found in the tomb. New Kingdom sarcophagi were often decorated with carvings and paintings depicting the dead, deities, and scenes from the Book of the Dead. What do you think? Why was the coincidence so realistic? Write your opinion in the comments. Underground factories. In Germany, the remains of underground factories under the Nazi regime have been discovered, where V-2 rockets and other military equipment were developed and produced using forced labor from concentration camp prisoners. These factories, hidden deep underground, were created to ensure the continuation of war production in the face of Allied bombing. Exploring these underground complexes opens up new insights into the scope and methods used by Nazi Germany in its attempts to achieve technological superiority during the war. The discoveries highlight the brutality of the regime, demonstrating that the Nazis did not stop at the massive use of slave labor to achieve their goals. These underground factories became a grim symbol of the industrialization of war crimes and the extreme measures the Nazis resorted to in their pursuit of victory. Russian pyramids. If you haven't seen it in person, you've probably heard about the greatness of the Egyptian pyramids on the Giza Plateau. This architectural ensemble, which has delighted the world with its splendor for centuries, is considered one of the most monumental. But Russian researchers have proposed an alternative, pointing to the existence of even older pyramids in Russia, covering areas from the Kola Peninsula to the Black Sea. The first discovery of such pyramidal structures occurred on the Kola Peninsula in 2001, the dating of which indicated an age twice that of the Egyptian counterparts. Subsequent discoveries confirmed the artificial origin of these pyramids, built between 9,000 and 40,000 years ago. In 2010, researchers discovered another ancient pyramid, indicating similar construction techniques to Egyptian and Chinese structures. In the Krasnoyarsk region is Sopka Chernaya, an extinct volcano nicknamed Pyramid for its triangular shape with man-made masonry, discovered in 1993. In Rostov-on-Don, there is the Sanctuary of Arius, a unique structure that predates the Egyptian pyramids by 1,000 years and was built according to the principle of the golden ratio. Crimea is especially rich, where in 2001 7 pyramids were found located in a line between Sevastopol and Foros, supposedly 2,000 years older than the Egyptian ones. Their architecture is reminiscent of Tibetan and Mexican pyramids, indicating the existence of an ancient, advanced civilization. It's hard to believe that the Egyptian pyramids are not as ancient as we were previously told. Also, such finds confirm that the Egyptians were not the first to create such grandiose structures. Until now, humanity is racking its brains and trying to understand why people in ancient times built pyramidal structures all over the globe. Metal door inside the rock. Since the beginning of the 21st century, numerous stories and rumors have surrounded the construction of the Baikal-Amur main line in Russia, some of which surprisingly have a basis in reality. During active work on this railway line, workers encountered anomalies and paranormal phenomena, causing many to call the line ghost. Among the stories, a special place is occupied by stories about the ghost of the railway, a train passing by without a sound, which was witnessed by both builders and local residents. Scientists believe the origins of these stories may be linked to events in the 1940s when prisoners hijacked a steam locomotive during an uprising in an escape attempt. The Bayam tunnels were not spared from mysteries, in particular the Severomoysky tunnel, the construction of which took more than 25 years due to unexpected surprises that posed new challenges for the builders. The mysteries associated with these structures, including stories of a white shaman who foreshadows disasters, only enhance the aura of mysticism around the highway. At every step, builders faced new obstacles that required immediate solutions. One of the most intriguing moments was the discovery of a metal door in one of the sections of the tunnel after the breakthrough of an underground spring, which led to the death of 30 people. The door, which became a real mystery, remained an unsolved secret, as did the strange sounds coming from underground, reminiscent of knocking. Attempts to explain these phenomena range from speculation about high concentrations of radon gas, which can cause audio hallucinations, to stories of evil spirits living in the depths of the tunnel. Additional intrigue is brought by the Devil's Bridge, part of the same highway, famous for its secrets and myths. Despite all the technical and mystical difficulties, the Severomoysky Tunnel and the Devil's Bridge remain the most important structures of the BAM, and the stories associated with them continue to excite the minds of both specialists and travelers. Answers to many questions have not yet been found, and each new riddle only deepens the mystery of these places. Collection of paintings. In 2012, a discovery in Munich shocked the global creative community. A billion-dollar collection of paintings confiscated by the Nazis was found in a modest-sized apartment. Among the works were works by such masters as Marc Chagall, Pablo Picasso, and Henri Matisse. This collection represents lost treasures of European art, many of which were thought lost for decades. The paintings fell into the hands of the Nazis as a result of a massive campaign to confiscate works of art that the regime considered degenerate or belonging to Jewish families. Many of these works were confiscated from their owners in the pre-war and war years, and after the war they were considered lost or destroyed. The discovery of this collection was made possible thanks to the investigative actions of the German authorities, who were investigating a case of tax fraud. The investigation led to a search of the apartment where these priceless works of art were discovered. The collection included both well-known masterpieces and lesser-known works that are nevertheless of great artistic and historical value. The find caused an international outcry because it raised questions about ownership, restitution, and moral responsibility. For many descendants of Jewish families stripped of their treasures by the Nazis, the discovery offered hope for the return of lost works of art that had become a symbol of their history and heritage. Pazyryk pile carpet. The discovery of the Pazyryk carpet in 1949 in one of the mounds of the ancient Pazyryk culture on the territory of the Altai Republic became a real sensation. Not only is it the oldest known pile carpet, but it is also a priceless historical artifact that demonstrates the excellence of the art of the time. The find was made by an expedition of the Institute of Archaeology of the USSR Academy of Sciences under the leadership of Sergei Rudenko. The study of the mounds of the Pazyryk culture began in the 19th century. After discovering the carpet, archaeologists conducted a thorough stylistic and artistic analysis of it. Everything from yarn to weaving techniques was studied. Comparison of the details of the carpet with the known ornaments of art objects of that time allowed us to draw a conclusion about its non-Altai and most likely Western or Central Asian origin. Rudenko also noted that already in the Achaemenid era, pile carpets were produced in Persia, which were used not only in everyday life, but also as a symbol of power and wealth, which emphasizes their significance in the culture and art of that time. Latest photos of extinct animals. The Red Book is often cited as a symbol of the protection of endangered species, but few people know about the existence of the Black Book, a sad catalog of animals and plants lost forever. This document serves as a poignant reminder that we have lost 844 species over the past 5 centuries. Today I want to talk about some animals that disappeared due to humans in the last century, whose last specimens were recorded in photographs or videos. The Barbary lion, native to North Africa, disappeared in the 1920s. Huge and powerful with a majestic mane, this lion was hunted to extinction because of its detriment to livestock, especially after the advent of firearms. The last lion was killed in 1922. The marsupial wolf, or thylacine, lived in Australia and New Guinea and was later driven to Tasmania by dingoes. The shooting by farmers began when thylacines began attacking livestock. In 1936, the last thylacine in the zoo died, but its appearance was preserved on video. The Bali tiger, which lived on the island of Bali, was one of the smallest tigers. Hunting of these tigers began in the 1910s, and the last female was killed in 1937, leading to the extinction of the species. The Mexican grizzly, which inhabited the territories of Mexico and the United States, was last seen in 1960. Despite the ban on hunting these bears in 1959, they have disappeared due to hunting and habitat loss. These stories are only a small part of the tragic fates of animals that have disappeared due to human activity. There are legends that modern humanity has found living mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, and supposedly these photographs confirm their recent existence. Peaceful people in America. The sacred city of Caral-Supe, located on a desert terrace in Peru, was discovered by archaeologists in 1948. This ancient city, estimated to be 5,000 years old, is recognized as one of the oldest in the Western Hemisphere and is considered the cradle of civilization in the Americas. The main architectural landmark of Caral is the Pyramid Mayor, almost 30 meters high and the size of 4 football fields. Built around 2600 BC, it is comparable in age to the ancient pyramids of Egypt. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials confirms that Caral-Supe existed at the same time as the Egyptian pyramids. Artifacts found at Caral, such as the quipu, a system of knots used to store information, indicate a high level of development and influence on subsequent Andean civilizations. Architectural features, including pyramidal structures and elite residences, indicate a complex socio-political organization and a powerful religious ideology. The absence of traces of war, such as fortifications and weapons, indicates the peaceful nature of the society based on trade and pleasure. In 2009, Caral-Supe was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its architectural heritage and influence on later Andean civilizations. Spitfire fighters in Burma. Known for their speed, maneuverability, and firepower, these British fighters played a key role in the Battle of Britain, becoming a symbol of courage and bravery. According to legend, in the face of the Japanese advance, dozens of new Spitfires were buried in the jungles of Burma to prevent their capture. Since then, they have become something of a holy grail for treasure hunters and military archaeologists. Years of searching and studying maps and documents from the war led to the start of large-scale archaeological excavations. Using modern technology, including ground-penetrating radar and satellite navigation, teams of archaeologists were able to locate the suspected burial sites of these aircraft. Excitement and tension grew with each day of excavation because everyone could witness the discovery of not only superbly preserved examples of aircraft, but also key elements of military history. The Spitfires recovered are models sent from Britain to support the Allies in Asia. Their discovery allows specialists and restorers to recreate and understand the technical aspects and operating conditions of these legendary machines. The secret of a 4,000-year-old artifact. In 2001, the archaeological world was puzzled by the influx of unique antiquities on the antiques market. Jewelry, weapons, and ceramics with exquisite designs and inlays appeared out of thin air, raising questions about their origins. The works, which featured complex symbolism, were attributed to Central Asia, but it later turned out that they were not fakes. An investigation in Iran in 2002 revealed the mystery of these finds. Arrests of traders led to the discovery of the artifact's location in the Khalil River Valley, where a flood in 2001 revealed an ancient necropolis from the Bronze Age. Local residents began selling artifacts, thereby revealing the existence of a previously unknown culture. Archaeologists were amazed by the scale of the discovery and began to study this place, excavating the main necropolis of Matutabad and two mounds, south and north Konar Sandal, while discovering the remains of ancient buildings and evidence of a highly developed civilization. In 2003, under the leadership of Yusef Majid-Zadeh, systematic excavations began, which lasted several years and revealed amazing artifacts and evidence of the existence of an ancient city here. Debate continues about the origins and significance of the Jiroft culture. Some scholars consider it to be the legendary errata of Sumerian texts, while others suggest an association with the ancient kingdom of Musashi. Despite differences of opinion, the excavations at Jiroft have provided invaluable information about the ancient civilization, leaving much room for further research and discovery. Burials in the Katyn forest. The discovery of mass graves in the Katyn forest near Smolensk, which in Russia still causes a lot of controversy. In 1943, German troops advancing on the Soviet Union discovered numerous graves of Polish officers. The Soviet Union denied any involvement, saying the Nazis were to blame. According to the official version of Western countries, in 1940, on the orders of the top leadership of the USSR, thousands of Polish officers, police officers, scientists, and public figures captured during the Soviet invasion of Poland in September 1939 were executed. These massacres carried out by the NKVD became known as the Katyn massacre. This discovery caused a wide international resonance, becoming an important argument in accusing the Stalinist regime of committing war crimes. For Poland, Katyn became a symbol of national tragedy and betrayal by the Soviet government, with which they had previously been considered allies. However, not everything is so simple. There is another opinion with supporting documents regarding this tragic event. In 1943, when the Nazis were defeated in the Battle of Stalingrad, the leadership of the Third Reich, and in particular the most powerful propaganda machine of that time in the person of Goebbels, had a desire to carry out an internal split. The Nazis themselves shot the Polish officers and allegedly discovered them themselves. This was done in order to point out Stalin's repressions and to antagonize the Allies among themselves. However, some Polish journalists did not believe the Nazis and conducted their own investigation. Some of the documents confirming the Nazi crime were prepared for the Nuremberg tribunal where the Nazis were tried. However, under strange circumstances, everyone who at least somehow tried to whitewash the Stalinist regime of that time began to die. Surprisingly, documents and everyone who was somehow involved in the investigation of this tragedy disappeared. Nevertheless, the Nuremberg International Military Tribunal indicted Hermann Göring, Nazi No. 2, and Alfred Jodl, the acting chief of the Wehrmacht High Command, for the Katyn crime. These are documented facts. It is difficult to believe that the Soviet army was involved in this execution because the Nazi allies also had a more terrible tragedy involving the Poles. This is the Volyn massacre, which many are now trying not to remember. Moreover, this event is maximally confirmed and documented throughout the world. Scrolls of Curses. In Brookside Meadows, England, archaeologists have stumbled upon Roman villas that showcase the architectural splendor of the time, with a multi-building complex and remarkable artifacts including curse scrolls. This Oxfordshire site stands out among other finds due to its scale and variety of objects dating from the late 1st to early 2nd century AD. On an area of 60,000 escus, discovered traces of human activity from the Neolithic to the early Iron Age, including buildings with decorative plaster and mosaics. Particular attention is drawn to the passage building with colonnades decorated with luxurious hand-drawn plaster. Other finds include ceramic slabs, coins, rings, and a horse brooch indicating cultural links between the late Roman and early Anglo-Saxon periods. The researchers' attention was also drawn to the lead scrolls found at the site. These cursed scrolls were used by the ancient Romans to petition the gods to bring curses on their enemies. The discovered specimens, although left empty, indicate potential rituals or pilgrimages. Such tablets were usually buried in places considered close to the underworld, allowing curses to reach the gods of the underground. These unique finds not only reveal details of Roman architecture and life, but also provide valuable information about the spiritual practices and beliefs of the ancient people, enriching our understanding of history. Traces of a disappeared culture. Venezuelan archaeologists have discovered 20 new sites with rock art dating back thousands of years. These drawings, found in Canaima National Park, belong to a previously unknown culture. The red pigment designs include geometric motifs such as dots, crosses, stars, and lines, as well as stylized images of leaves and human figures. Some images are carved into stone, making them petroglyphs. The purpose of these drawings remains a mystery. They could be associated with birth, illness, renewal of nature, or hunting. Rock art sites were probably important because of their location, just as the sites of churches and mosques are to us today. The exact age of the drawings is still unknown, but they are believed to be about 4,000 years old, similar to similar drawings in Brazil. However, scientists believe that the Venezuelan finds may be more ancient. Canaima National Park is a huge area of forests and parks the size of Belgium. One of its most famous attractions is Angel Falls, the tallest waterfall in the world. Researchers speculate that the park may have been the center of the emergence of this mysterious culture, which later spread throughout the Amazon, Guyana, and southern Colombia, where there are similar cave paintings. Dinosaur footprints in rock art. The scientific community encountered an unusual discovery in northeastern Brazil, where they found a unique juxtaposition of dinosaur tracks and ancient petroglyphs. In the state of Paraíba, in the Serrote do Letreiro region, researchers discovered fossilized imprints of theropods, sauropods, and iguanodonts from the early Cretaceous period, as well as pre-colonial cave paintings. This unique site brings together ancient traces and art, creating a symbolic connection between painting and fossils. Previously, petroglyphs were also found near dinosaur tracks, but not in such close interaction. Researchers believe that ancient artists deliberately chose places near ancient footprints for their drawings. This emphasizes a deep perception of the connection between art and natural phenomena. Petroglyphs, which previously received less attention, are now being studied in conjunction with ancient traces. The rock paintings are circular figures with radial lines and other geometric motifs, the meaning of which remains a mystery. Among the designs, images reminiscent of nets, stars, and snakes stand out, indicating a variety of styles and possibly the presence of several authors. Operation Bernard. Operation Bernard was one of the most ambitious and secret operations of World War II, carried out by Nazi Germany to destabilize the economies of the Allied countries through the mass production of counterfeit banknotes. The main purpose of the operation was to flood the British and American markets with counterfeit pounds and dollars, which was supposed to lead to inflation and undermine confidence in the national currency. Launched in 1942 under the leadership of the SS, the operation exploited the talents of concentration camp prisoners, skilled artists, printers, and bankers who were promised better conditions in exchange for their participation in the production of counterfeits. The center of the operation was a secret printing press in the Sachsenhausen concentration camp, where perfect copies of British pounds and later American dollars were created. The quality of the fakes was so high that even experts had difficulty identifying them. Fake pound sterling are considered some of the best counterfeits in history, and some remained in circulation for many years after the war. It was planned that counterfeit money would be used to finance espionage operations in enemy territory, as well as to purchase valuables and strategic goods in neutral countries. However, despite the successful production of large quantities of counterfeit currency, plans for mass distribution were not fully realized due to logistical and strategic issues. The end of the war and the fall of Nazi Germany brought an end to Operation Bernard, but the effects of the campaign were felt for many years to come. The discovery of huge quantities of counterfeit banknotes after the war prompted the need to update security measures and money-making technologies. The story of an impressive figure. At the beginning of the 19th century, Daniel Lambert, born in 1770, became famous due to his extraordinary weight exceeding 300 kilograms. At that time, such a phenomenon was a real rarity. Lambert, called the heaviest man in England, had not only his impressive size, but also a love of sports and an active lifestyle in his youth. He worked as a prison keeper, but after its closure in 1805, he found himself without a livelihood. Realizing that public interest in his person could become a source of income, Lambert came to terms with the idea of making money by allowing people to look at himself for money. Having moved to London, he became a real celebrity, attracting attention not only with his appearance, but also with his intelligence, charm, and wit. However, Lambert experienced hostility and rudeness from some viewers. However, he did not lose his dignity and answered unpleasant questions wittily. As a result, he earned enough to retire from public speaking and return to a quiet life. However, Lambert's fame lived on even after his death in 1809. His wax figure traveled and was subsequently burned in a fire. In 2009, on the anniversary of his death, Leicester celebrated Daniel Lambert Day, remembering him as an iconic figure in the city's history. There's madness in his eyes. During excavations in Herculaneum, a city destroyed by the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD, an ancient bronze bust of the Roman Emperor Caligula was found. The 12-centimeter-high bust was discovered in the 17th century, but its trace was later lost for almost 200 years. Experts believe that the bust was cast shortly before or after Caligula's death, about 2,000 years ago. The bust of Caligula depicts him with a high forehead, thin lips, a small mouth, and a prominent chin. The eyes of the sculpture unmistakably convey the madness that is often associated with this emperor. Caligula, the third representative of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, is known for his riotous lifestyle and incest. He was killed in 41 AD as a result of a palace coup. After its initial discovery, the bust was given as a gift to the famous English writer and politician Horace Walpole. Walpole admired the expressiveness of Caligula's face, believing that the emperor was captured at the beginning of his madness. The bust was kept in Walpole's mansion, Strawberry Hill House, and after his death passed through hands until it disappeared for 200 years. The bust was recently rediscovered by Oxford University historian Sylvia Davoli, calling the event fascinating. Each object found helps to better understand the life of the ancient Romans. The bust of Caligula is an important archaeological find that sheds light on Roman history and culture. Japanese battleship Musashi. The battleship Musashi, along with its sister Yamatos, represented the apogee of Japanese naval engineering during World War II and was one of the largest and most powerful warships ever built. Launched in 1940, Musashi weighed more than 72,000 tons when fully loaded and was armed with 9 460 mm guns that could fire shells weighing more than 1 ton at a distance of up to 42 kilometers. These giant ships were designed to dominate the Pacific theater of war, but their fate was tragic. Musashi was actively involved in combat operations during the war, participating in a number of major battles, including the Battle of the Sibuyan Sea, where it was sunk in October 1944 by American aircraft. The sinking of the Musashi became a symbol of changing priorities in naval warfare, where the advantage passed to aircraft carriers and aircraft, and the giant battleships lost their superiority. The discovery of the Musashi wreck in 2015 by undersea exploration aficionado and Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen was a major event. Allen's team found the ship at a depth of more than 1,000 meters in the Sibuyan Sea. The use of modern underwater vehicles made it possible to obtain unique footage of the wreckage of the ship, revealing details of its design and damage received in the last battle. The mystery of the Alak-Icom monoliths. In the south of Nigeria, in the state of Cross River, about 300 stone monoliths were discovered, created from the 16th to the beginning of the 20th century. These monoliths, arranged in circles and made of volcanic stone, surprise with their diversity. Their height varies from 0.3 to 1.8 meters. What attracts the most attention is the unique carvings on their surfaces, which include repeating patterns, stylized faces, and mysterious inscriptions that may be an ancient form of writing. The local Ekoi people call these stones atol or akwanshi. Distributed among 30 communities, the monoliths often form perfect circles, becoming the centerpiece of settlements or the decoration of forested areas. Made primarily of basalt, the monoliths also include limestone and sandstone specimens, all carved with distinct human features and symbols reflecting tribal affiliation. These monoliths carry a deep meaning associated with the cult of ancestors. According to local beliefs, each monolith symbolizes an ancestor whose soul continues to dwell in the stone, connecting the living with the spirits of the departed. This tradition maintains connections between generations and maintains respect for the history and culture of the Ekoi people. However, the monoliths are surrounded by many mysteries. Their exact history, the meaning of the symbols printed on them, and the purposes of their use have not yet been revealed. Despite many years of research, ancient inscriptions on stones remain undeciphered, posing a challenge for archaeologists and historians. The monoliths are currently under threat from weather, erosion, and vandalism, making their conservation a global concern. Unique round burials. In December 2023, archaeologists from the Museum of Cultural History discovered a unique burial of infants in a quarry near Fredrikstad, Norway. Most of the 41 graves contain cremated remains of infants, a rarity for the period 800–200 BC. Scientists determined the age of those buried by thin fragments of cranial bones characteristic of infants. Each grave was surrounded by stone circles, and the remains were placed in urns or directly under the stones. Interestingly, cooking pits and fire pits were found near the graves, indicating rituals and gatherings associated with burials. The site may have been a meeting place for an ancient community where people mourned the loss of children. Mass graves of children are rare in archaeology. This discovery provides insight into the attitudes of ancient communities towards children, showing that they were an important part of society. And even thousands of years ago, people had great difficulty coping with the loss of their children. The dove's secret message. In 2012, in England, an amazing discovery was made in the chimney of one of the houses, which opened a new page in the history of military intelligence and communications during the Second World War. It is about the skeleton of a pigeon, which is believed to have been a signal pigeon that died on a mission. This discovery in itself is already of historical interest, but the real sensation was that a metal capsule containing an undeciphered message was found with the remains of the bird. This message, written on thin paper, consists of 27 lines of coded characters that have not yet been deciphered. Researchers speculate that it could have been a secret message sent from the front to Allied headquarters during critical operations. Pigeon mail was an important means of communication during the war due to its ability to deliver messages in conditions where other means of communication were unavailable or too dangerous. The discovery has challenged cryptographers and historians around the world to decipher the message, which could contain valuable information about military operations, intelligence, or even the location of a military unit. This discovery also highlights the importance and uniqueness of pigeon mail as a means of transmitting important messages, which was especially important during times of global conflicts. Interestingly, the search for the key to this cipher continues to this day. Wrecked steamboat under a cornfield. In 1988 in Kansas, underground at a depth of 15 meters, treasure hunters discovered the sunken steamship Arabia, which had been resting under a layer of earth for as long as 132 years. Built in 1853, the steamship was a symbol of American enterprise and engineering prowess, but its career on the waters was short-lived. Arabia would have sailed even on the sands of Arabia, so went the saying, emphasizing the reliability of the ship. However, the dangerous waters of the Missouri became fatal for it. During a voyage in 1856, the Arabia encountered an underwater obstacle and quickly sank, although all passengers and crew evacuated safely. The ship and its rich cargo remained underwater, and although in later years there were rumors of treasure on board, including whiskey and expensive porcelain, no serious attempt was made to recover it until earthly processes buried the Arabia under layers of sand and clay. The story was revived at the end of the 20th century when a team of enthusiasts, led by the Hawley family and their partners, decided to discover and raise the sunken steamship. After careful study of maps and historical records, they found the place where Arabia was buried. Using modern technology, the team conducted an extensive excavation and discovered not only the steamship but also its remarkably well-preserved cargo, representing a valuable cross-section of American life and culture at the time. Among the items found were shoes, cosmetics, tools, medicines, luxury glassware, alcohol, and much more. All this provided an invaluable insight into the daily lives of people of that era. The recovered artifacts and parts of the ship itself later became the basis for the Arabia Museum in Kansas City, which opened in 1991 and is home to the largest collection of antebellum items in the United States. French Resistance Weapons Depot. In France, while renovating one of the old houses, a startling discovery was made: a hidden weapons cache that probably belonged to members of the French Resistance during World War II. This occupation-era arsenal included handguns, grenades, explosives, and documentation of underground activities. The discovery of finds of this kind is rare and is of great value to historians and researchers. The arsenal, found in a cache under the floor of the house, testifies to the well-organized and decisive preparation of the French people to fight the occupiers. Resistance in France was multi-layered. This movement organized sabotage, intelligence operations, distribution of anti-Nazi leaflets, and assistance to the Allies. The weapons used by the resistance were often delivered by British and American allies via parachute drops or transported through neutral countries. A 4,000-year-old parcel. The National Museum of Ireland has received unique artifacts from the Bronze Age. An anonymous sender sent 2 axes by post which are over 4,000 years old. Experts noted that the axes were carefully packed in a box with foam padding. The sender also enclosed a letter stating that the axes were found using a metal detector in the Westmeath area. The museum has asked the sender to provide more information about the find, especially the exact location of the find, in order to understand the historical context. The axes date back to 2150-2000 BC, which coincides with the beginning of the Bronze Age. They may be among the first metal axes in Ireland made from copper, possibly mined on Ross Island. The object itself is valuable, but the context is also important. Artifacts were often buried in places associated with rituals. The museum hopes that the sender will contact us to provide more information. What are the Mouth of Truth silent about? The Mouth of Truth, Bocca della Verità, is an ancient marble sculpture depicting the deity of the ocean and dates back to the 1st century AD. With a diameter of 1.75 meters and a weight of 1,300 kilograms, this relic may date back to Roman times, serving as a manhole or element of a fountain given the tradition of depicting river gods on such objects. Over time, this sculpture has turned from an ordinary architectural element into a mysterious object surrounded by mystical legends. The story of its ability to cut off the hand of a liar became especially famous. According to one legend, a woman accused of infidelity managed to save her hand, loyalty, and honor using cunning and feminine deceit. The first mention of this artifact dates back to the 11th century, and it received its current location near the Church of Santa Maria in Cosmedin after being moved in 1631. But Mouth of Truth was brought worldwide fame by cinema. In particular, the film Roman Holiday, where Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn experienced the magic of sculpture, turning it into a symbol of Rome and a source of inspiration for many cultural works. Today, the Mouth of Truth is considered not just an ancient artifact, but also the most photographed sewer in the world, attracting thousands of tourists who want to test the ancient belief for themselves. Strange Lynx Find. In Hungary, archaeologists came across an unusual find, a burial of 5 animals consisting of a lynx and 4 dogs dating back to the 5th to 6th centuries AD. This discovery, made in an area that once belonged to the Roman Empire called Pannonia, has raised many questions. Since lynxes are rarely found among archaeological finds in Europe, much less together with dogs in the same burial. The skeleton of a lynx was discovered at the bottom of a 4-meter-deep hole, and above, separated by layers of earth, lay the skeletons of dogs. Interestingly, artifacts found in a nearby ancient settlement indicate that local residents ate mainly the meat of domesticated animals. Given the rarity of finds of lynx skeletons and the complete lack of examples of joint burials with dogs, scientists suggest various theories. One of them suggests that the animals may have died in mortal combat during a hunt, while the other points to the possible ritual significance of the burial. However, the lack of additional artifacts leaves the exact cause and meaning of this burial a mystery. This discovery challenges modern understanding of the relationships between wild and domesticated animals in ancient times, as well as the rituals and beliefs of the peoples who lived in what is now Hungary 1,500 years ago. The presence of the lynx, a large predator that has become rare in modern Europe, further enhances the interest in this find. Churchill's secret bunker. In 2020, researchers in the UK made a surprising discovery when they discovered one of the secret bunkers built to support Churchill's secret army, the existence of which few knew. This army, known as the Auxiliaries, was created at the beginning of the Second World War as an underground resistance in the event of a successful German invasion of Great Britain. The bunker, found deep in the English countryside, was one of around 500 similar structures located across the country. It was a fortified underground shelter equipped with everything necessary for a long stay, from places to sleep to warehouses with weapons and ammunition. The bunkers were intended for small groups of armed civilians who were supposed to carry out sabotage, intelligence, and reconnaissance behind enemy lines in the event of occupation. These secret units were formed at the initiative of Winston Churchill, who insisted on creating a resistance network capable of providing significant resistance to the Nazi invaders. The participants in this network were recruited from among especially reliable and physically prepared citizens and underwent specialized training. Treasures of ancient burials. At the Northern Taosi Cemetery in Shaanxi, China, archaeologists have discovered unique bronzes and burials dating back to the spring and autumn periods 770–481 BC, a key era in Chinese history. The first mention of the cemetery appeared in 2014 after the arrest of tomb robbers. New excavations have uncovered 5 tombs from this era associated with the Spring and Autumn Chronicles, a historical text attributed to Confucius. One of the tombs, designated 2015 M1, contained various bronze objects including tripods, cauldrons, mirrors, and bells. Burials of a man and a woman were also found in a chamber with 2-story platforms, decorated with funerary gifts. These finds have characteristics associated with the Jin dynasty and demonstrate connections to Chu and Qilu culture, highlighting the cultural and technological interaction of the regions. Unique type of DNA in alien mummies. 3-fingered mummies have been discovered in Peru, establishing themselves as something beyond our world. The creators of the documentary, Serena DC and Michael Mazzola, announced the presentation of unique evidence of the existence of humanoids. The remains found in the mountain mine, according to documentarians, are not a fake and contain DNA that is not similar to the known forms. American scientists in Mexico and Peru have conducted research, the results of which refute the claims of the Peruvian authorities about mummies as a tourist attraction. According to the filmmakers, the discovery could rewrite the history of mankind, becoming comparable to the discovery of the Shroud of Christ or the Ark of the Covenant. The documentarians are convinced of the need for scientific DNA analysis to understand the origins of creatures that are more than 1,000 years old and whose DNA is 30% unknown, indicating possible genetic manipulation. The film suggests that the mummies could be evidence of a new species or even extraterrestrial origin. The creators plan to show images and research results live from the laboratory, calling for a serious scientific analysis of the discovered remains. Women's concentration camp, Ravensbrück. The Ravensbrück concentration camp, located in Germany, was founded in 1939 and was the largest women's concentration camp of the Nazi system. Tens of thousands of women of various nationalities were held here, subjected to torture, forced labor, and horrific medical experiments. Between 1942 and 1943, cruel experiments were carried out on prisoners at the Ravensbrück concentration camp, during which deep cuts were made to their calves and then bacteria from tetanus, streptococcus, and gas gangrene were rubbed into these wounds. Additionally, crushed glass and sawdust were injected into the wounds, simulating the conditions of combat wounds. The purpose of these inhumane experiments carried out by German doctors was to study treatments that could be used to treat wounded soldiers at the front. Archaeological excavations carried out at the Ravensbrück campsite in recent years have uncovered personal belongings of prisoners, providing new data for understanding the lives and fate of prisoners. Among the artifacts found were jewelry, pieces of fabric, shoes, and personal hygiene items that prisoners hid in the hope of maintaining some connection with their former life and humanity. These little things, seemingly insignificant against the backdrop of the overall tragedy, nevertheless tell a huge story about the strength of spirit, hope, and despair that lived in the hearts of the women of Ravensbrück. Particularly valuable are finds related to children who were also kept in the camp with their mothers or were born in captivity. Toys, children's shoes, and clothing found during the excavations highlight the inhumanity of the regime, which did not spare even the smallest. Excavations on the territory of Ravensbrück continue, and each new discovery helps to complement and clarify the historical picture of the camp. Unknown building from prehistoric times. In France, archaeologists discovered a unique ancient structure consisting of 3 round structures, which still remain a mystery to scientists. The find was made in Marliens, near Dijon, before the expansion of a local quarry. The work was carried out under the auspices of the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research. The artifacts cover the period from the Neolithic to the early Iron Age over an area of 60,000 square meters. A monument with 3 fences was also discovered, the central one having the shape of a horseshoe. Scientists suggest that this structure may have been used during the Neolithic period, which began about 7,000 years ago. Radiocarbon dating is underway to confirm the date. Artifacts related to the bell beaker culture, including flint arrowheads and a copper dagger, were found near the structure. One of the armbands contained pyrite used to start a fire, indicating a possible burial site, although this hypothesis has not yet been confirmed. In addition, a 5-chamber burial dating to 1500 to 1300 BC was found, including a burial hearth and an amber necklace. At a distance of 400 meters from the main find, the ashes of Iron Age cremations containing jewelry were discovered. 2 sensations on one stone. In the village of Yelabuga in Russia, an amazing archaeological discovery took place. A basalt boulder with petroglyphs reminiscent of the famous Sikachi-Alyan rock paintings was found. An image of a praying mantis was also found on this stone, which is rare for this region. An expedition of scientists from Moscow arrived in the region to study the find. Initially, archaeologists were skeptical about the report of petroglyphs, but on the spot they confirmed the authenticity of the artifact. Various figures are visualized on the stone, including a rare image of a praying mantis, which is unique in the whole world. Scientists continue to study this area, flying quadcopters to record coordinates and create a digital map of petroglyphs. The main question that remains open is the origin of the boulder with such unique patterns. There are hypotheses that the stone could have arrived with ice drift or been brought in another way. 3D models made from the drawings will allow archaeologists to present to the public exact copies of the Yelabuga finds, confirming their importance and uniqueness. This find not only confirms the rich history of the region, but also opens up new perspectives for the study of ancient civilizations. Panther tank in the basement. In 2015, an event occurred in Germany that caused enormous public and media resonance. A World War II-era Panther tank was discovered in the basement garage of a private home, along with a number of other military artifacts associated with Nazi Germany. Recognized as one of the most powerful and efficient tanks of its time, the Panther is a rare exhibit and a subject of particular interest to historians and collectors. Along with the tank, an anti-tank gun, a torpedo, and numerous other military items were found in the garage, each a testament to the technological progress and war efforts of Nazi Germany. The discovery was made possible by an anonymous tip, followed by a search by police and military experts that led to this unusual discovery. Writing denunciations in Germany can be said to be part of German culture, but it is surprising how the owner of such a huge military arsenal managed to hide a tank in his basement for 70 years. The owner of the house, an elderly man, was a history enthusiast and is believed to have collected these items over the years. The question of the origin of the tank and other items, as well as how they were delivered to the basement, caused a lot of controversy among experts. Judicial authorities were faced with the task of determining whether the owner broke the law by owning such objects, especially given the strictness of German law regarding Nazi-era symbols and artifacts. For many, this incident was a reminder that even decades after the end of the war, its echoes are still reflected in our modern world, sometimes in the most unexpected and surprising forms, and how much more similar military equipment and weapons of those years are stored in basements and cellars throughout Germany. Worth its weight in gold. Mexican scholars recently invested 9.5 million pesos in acquiring 3 unique documents from the late 16th century. This investment opened a new page in history, providing valuable information about the period of the Spanish arrival in the lands of modern Mexico. We are talking about the Codex of San Andrés Tetepilco, compiled at the turn of the 16th and 17th centuries, which vividly illustrate the events of that time, including the reign of Itzcoatl, the 4th ruler of Tenochtitlan and founder of the Aztec Empire, and the arrival of Hernán Cortés. These rare codices were purchased for the National Library of Anthropology and History through the efforts and support of individuals and organizations. A payment of 9.5 million pesos allowed them to be returned from private hands to the public domain. The analysis showed that the codices were created from amate, traditional paper made from tree bark with the use of natural dyes, which emphasizes the high skill of their creators. The authenticity of the documents was confirmed through collaboration with experts from various scientific institutions. The San Andres Tetepilco codices stand out among other artifacts because of their unique combination of indigenous traditions and European influences. Containing texts in Nahuatl and Spanish written in the Latin alphabet, this treasure provides an opportunity to delve deeper into the study and understanding of a key period in the region's history. Ancient Roman safe chest. In 1994, in central Spain, next to the ancient Roman temple of Mithra, archaeologists found the ruins of the Villa Casa del Mitreo. Built at the end of the 1st century, it was rebuilt several times before a major fire in the 4th century. Particular attention was drawn to a large wooden chest, bound with copper and iron plates. In ancient Rome, such chests served as safes for storing valuables. The chest measures about 3 by 1.5 meters, making it the largest such find. Due to the poor condition of the chest, which was damaged in a fire, archaeologists did not dare to remove it in 1994 for fear of destruction. The chest was left in place, awaiting better times and technologies to preserve it. This is a common practice in archaeology when the safety of an artifact cannot be guaranteed. In 2017, thanks to new technologies, the chest was removed and delivered to the Institute of Cultural Heritage of Spain. Here it was stabilized and preserved. There is no information about the contents of the chest. Most likely, the owners saved valuable things before the destruction of the villa. Olduvai Gorge. Tanzania is home to one of the most important paleoanthropological sites on Earth, playing a key role in understanding the evolution of early humans. The site contains extensive evidence of ancient hominin activity dating back more than 2 million years. The numerous sites and tools discovered here have given scientists a unique opportunity to study the development of early human cultures and their social structures. One of the most valuable finds at Olduvai Gorge are the stone tools that allow us to trace the technological progress of ancient hominins. These tools, used for hunting and butchering animals, as well as for processing plants, indicate the beginnings of complex social and economic life. In addition to the tools, archaeologists have found animal remains with clear signs of hunting and processing, indicating that prey was hunted and processed for further use. Sajima Island. Marked by history as one of the darkest places during World War II, Sajima Island was nicknamed Hell on Earth due to the brutal treatment of prisoners of war held there in extremely harsh conditions. Located in a remote part of Japan, this island became the site of mass suffering and death of Allied soldiers captured by the Japanese army. In recent years, archaeological excavations on Sajima Island have shed light on the island's dark history by revealing mass graves of prisoners of war. These findings provided an opportunity to deepen our understanding of the lives, conditions of detention, and circumstances of death of prisoners forced to endure unbearable conditions, hunger, disease, and cruel treatment. The island, used for military purposes, was isolated from the rest of the world, which made it possible to hide what was happening here from the international community. Stories from survivors and historical documents testified to inhumane ordeals, but only recent excavations have made it possible to fully appreciate the scale of the tragedy. Finds on the island include personal belongings of prisoners of war, letters that were never sent, and fragments of clothing that help reconstruct the lifestyle and final moments of the people stranded here. Living doll. In 1877, Thomas Edison created something unique and unusual, a talking doll which became one of his most extraordinary inventions. Weighing less than 2 kilograms with a porcelain head and wooden limbs, this doll contained a miniature version of a phonograph that could produce sound by turning a knob. But instead of becoming a charming entertainment, it caused many people to be rather alarmed by its unusual feature. Edison presented his invention as the latest electric fad, capable of speaking phrases or singing songs thanks to a phonograph built into its torso. To record the sounds, a team of women was brought in to record various phrases and melodies, but unfortunately the dolls turned out to be not as durable as expected and could not withstand the active play of children, which often led to breakdown of the mechanism. In 1889, Edison faced complaints about the fragility of the wax plates used, which confirmed the need to refine the design to increase its reliability. However, production turned out to be unprofitable, and by 1890 costs exceeded $50,000, forcing the Edison Phonograph Toy Manufacturing Company to discontinue production of these dolls. Edison's failure in this direction did not in any way affect public opinion, since even with the high cost of dolls, many would prefer to spend money on other toys. Interestingly, the scary image of a talking doll may have inspired many horror stories and creepypastas where sinister dolls became central characters. Generals' gold jewelry. In 2020, a huge trove of gold artifacts was found in Vindelev, Denmark, dating back to pre-Viking Age migrations. The finds included 23 gold objects, including 13 5th-century bracteates, gold fittings possibly from weapons, and 4 4th-century Roman medallions. Particularly noteworthy is the runic inscribed bracteate, the largest ever found, containing a reference to Odin, a key figure in Norse mythology. Research into these medallions has shed light on possible cultural and social connections between Vindelev and other regions of Europe. It is assumed that the medallions could serve as wedding ransoms or high gifts in elite circles. These gold medallions were probably worn by women as pendants, indicating the high status of their owner, who carried weight both locally and internationally. The peculiarity of these medallions is that they were given to prominent Roman figures such as senators and generals, and their presence in Vindelev, far from the Roman Empire, underscores the importance of this find. Sunken ship with lead ingots. About 2,000 years ago, a Roman ship sank in the Mediterranean Sea with valuable cargo, including massive lead ingots. The heaviest of them weighs 68 kilograms, which is about 205 Roman pounds, according to the University of Alicante. Markings on the ingot indicate that it belonged to a Roman emperor, possibly Nero. In addition, there were about 3,000 cans of fish sauce on board the ship. This sauce, known as garum, was popular in Roman cuisine and was widely used as a seasoning. The ship was about 32 meters long and was probably en route from Cadiz to Rome when it sank. The ship not only carried valuable metals but also foodstuffs important to the Roman diet. Exploring the shipwreck provides a unique opportunity to study the shipbuilding technologies and trading methods of the ancient Romans. German refuge. In 2021, during renovation work in Germany, a cache containing Nazi artifacts and documents was found in the wall of one of the houses. The find included medals, military uniforms, personal letters, photographs, as well as propaganda materials and other items dating back to the Nazi Germany period. These artifacts, neatly hidden in the wall, were likely walled up in the final days of the war or immediately after its end, when the owners may have tried to hide their connection with the Nazi regime for fear of possible reprisals from the Allied forces or the new government. The find became evidence of the tragic history of those years when objects that once carried pride and ideological significance turned into symbols of shame and fear. Among the documents found were personal letters that provide valuable primary sources for understanding the feelings and opinions of ordinary people. The photographs provide insight into everyday life, cultural and social aspects of Nazi Germany, allowing for a better understanding of how the ordinary coexisted with the exceptional. This discovery and others like it present society with a dilemma. On the one hand, the importance of preserving historical memory. On the other, the need to ensure that these materials are not used for propaganda purposes or praise of the Nazi regime. What do you think? Do the symbols and artifacts of the Third Reich have a right to life, or can their existence revive fascism and Nazism and take us back to the times of the extermination of entire nations? Write your opinion in the comments under the video. The oldest animal sculpture. On the coast of South Africa, 330 kilometers from Cape Town, scientists from Nelson Mandela University discovered the oldest artificial image of an animal created by man. This sculpture of a blue stingray, made from petrified sand, is located near Blombos Cave, famous for rock art dating back to 77,000 and 73,000 years ago. The study showed that the sculpture was created about 130,000 years ago during the Middle Paleolithic period. The special symmetry and engraved patterns indicate that this is the work of man and not a random creation of nature. This find makes it possible to trace the development of art among the ancient ancestors of man, showing the transition from the creation of abstract forms to realistic images of animals. Ritual table in Tava Tepe. In Azerbaijan, a team of Italian and Azerbaijani archaeologists discovered a 3,500-year-old ritual table in the ancient settlement of Tava Tepe. This place is located near the borders of Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. During the excavations, a round-shaped adobe building was found. The structure includes a kitchen area and a ritual table. Between 1500 and 750 BC, late Bronze Age and early Iron Age, nomadic peoples probably used Tava Tepe as a resting place before traveling through the mountains. Archaeologists found a ritual table with 8 recesses and many ceramic containers, bowls, vessels made of black-fired ceramics, and long flat stones for mixing food. In the corner of the kitchen, there is a thick layer of ash and clay tokens with fingerprints which could serve as food coupons. The entrance originally had wooden columns, and a thatched roof covered the entire complex, which was about 15 meters in diameter. Animal bones and discarded pottery were found outside. The human figurines placed in the sacrificial pits and the fact that the structure was sealed along with all the utensils indicate its ceremonial nature. Camp Sobibor. The Sobibor extermination camp, located in Poland, was one of the most sinister sites of Nazi genocide during World War II. Recent archaeological excavations at the site have shed light on the dark history of the Holocaust, revealing remains of gas chambers, living quarters, and personal belongings of victims. These findings provided important evidence of the scale of crimes committed in the death camps. The Sobibor gas chambers were a central element in the extermination of the population, and their discovery provides insight into the technological aspect of the Nazi system of mass extermination. Excavations have revealed the foundations and structure of these sinister structures where the Nazis killed millions of innocent people. Finds of the victims' personal belongings, such as shoes, jewelry, children's toys, and household items, speak to the scale of the tragedy and the personal stories of those who were doomed to die. These objects serve as powerful reminders of the brutality of the crimes committed against them. The discovery of the Sobibor campsite not only contributes to the understanding of the history of the Holocaust, but also serves as an important lesson for future generations. It reminds us of the need to remember the horrors of the past. The most inappropriate animal of the ancient world. Bonacon, the beast of medieval bestiaries, caused wonder and laughter with his unusual abilities. This creature, mentioned in ancient texts, spewed fire from its backside, burning its pursuers. The idea of the Bonacone has attracted attention for over 1,000 years, starting with Pliny the Elder, who described it under the name Bonasus. This mythical beast, with the mane of a horse and the body of a bull, used an unusual form of defense by throwing dung over a long distance. Aristotle, having laid the foundations of zoology, also mentioned this animal under the name Menoapos, indicating its habitat in Paeonia, a region north of Macedonia. The uniqueness of Menoapos lay in its ability to throw excrement with such force that it could form a protective wall around females during childbirth. The question of the real prototype of these creatures remains open. Researchers suggest that encounters with wild bulls such as aurochs or bison could be behind the legend. However, the fantastic details inherent in the stories of the Bonacon, like many other medieval myths, may have been the result of misunderstandings or jokes of ancient observers who sought to surprise or amuse their contemporaries. Butter in the swamps. Wetlands often become a treasure trove for archaeologists due to their conservation properties. The humic acid in peat bogs creates a pH level similar to vinegar, allowing items to be preserved for hundreds or even thousands of years. The Irish and Scottish marshes are especially famous, where butter is often found. To date, about 500 similar finds have been recorded, dating back to the 17th century. Similar finds are also found in Norway, the Netherlands, and Germany. Butter is usually found in wooden barrels, buckets, baskets, and cups. Sometimes it is wrapped in birch bark and cloth, but a third of the finds have no packaging. The weight of the finds varies from 150 grams to 50 kilograms. The oldest Irish find dates back to 1745 to 1635 BC, and the Scottish ones date back to the 3 RD2 and centuries BC. The reasons for storing butter in swamps are varied. One version is long-term storage. Archaeologist Daniel K. Fisher found that meat stored in peat bogs retained its freezer-like properties. Butter could also be used as currency for exchange, taxes, or rent. Another reason could be fermentation to improve taste. Nordic Food Lab experiments showed that butter stored in peat acquired unique flavors and remained edible after a year and a half. Incredible luck. A farmer from the Indian town of Pani, Dilip Mistry, found a 16.10-carat diamond in a private mine that was valued at over $70,000. Mistry and 3 companions were hoping to find gems, but did not expect such luck. Local gem expert Anupam Singh confirmed the authenticity of the find, and now the diamond will be sold at auction. Of the proceeds, 12.5% will have to be given to the government as a royalty, and the remaining money will be divided among the 4 bidders. Videos posted online show Dilip proudly showing off the shimmering diamond and then handing it over to a district officer. Mistry said he plans to use his share of the money to improve the family's financial situation. Notably, this is not the first time a farmer has found diamonds. He and his partners have previously found gems, although Mistry has not said how much they were worth. Discovery of the Leningrad Diary. In the archives of St. Petersburg, formerly known as Leningrad, a unique discovery was made that sheds light on one of the darkest pages in the history of the Great Patriotic War, the Siege of Leningrad. A newly discovered diary, written by an unknown author during the siege, provides a personal account of life and survival in a city cut off from the rest of the world by German troops for nearly 900 days. The text of the diary covers the period from the first days of the siege until its breakthrough, describing the daily difficulties, fears, and hopes of the inhabitants of Leningrad. The author documents everything from severe shortages of food, water, and fuel to the heroic efforts of residents to defend their home from the enemy. The diary also touches on moments of personal grief and joy. The discovery of this document was a significant event for researchers and anyone interested in the history of World War II. Leningrad Diary allows you to look into the soul of ordinary people who found themselves in the midst of one of the most brutal blockades in history. This diary has become an important historical source, supplementing the official history of the Siege of Leningrad with personal experiences and testimonies, making the story more complete. Erotic graffiti. On the island of Astipalaya in Greece, unique archaeological artifacts were found. Some of the oldest erotic carvings and descriptions of intimate relationships between men, dating back to the 5th to 6th centuries BC. This discovery was made by Dr. Andreas Vlahopoulos during an excursion with students. The limestone slabs depict male genitals, and nearby are engraved inscriptions in ancient Greek. Nikasitim was here riding Timion, which emphasizes the openness and detail of the depiction of sexual scenes. These finds reveal a personal, intimate side of the life of the ancient Greeks, about which not much is known. Relationships between men in ancient Greece were generally accepted but rarely discussed publicly. The images and inscriptions are made in the style of the time using the Greek alphabet, which makes them important evidence of the cultural and social life of the era. Over the 2 millennia that the graffiti has been exposed to the open air, it has been remarkably well preserved, withstanding weather and erosion. Unicorn horn. Let me introduce you to the life of a medieval unicorn. This creature, although mythical, faced the cruel attitude of humanity. People hunted unicorns for their magical horns, which were believed to have unique properties, such as the ability to purify water and remove poison from food. Unicorns were believed to exist according to the testimony of many ancient scientists, including Aristotle and Ctesias, as well as great minds such as Leonardo da Vinci. In the Middle Ages, unicorns personified purity and wisdom. Their horns became a symbol of prosperity and could serve as an indicator of food poisoning among the aristocracy. But how do you find a unicorn horn in a world where these creatures don't exist? This question has been answered through the use of the horns of other animals such as rhinoceroses or walruses. Most popular, however, are the tusks of narwhals, animals from the Arctic whose curled tusks have been mistaken for centuries for the horns of unicorns. Travelers and hunters secretly obtained these horns and sold them to Europeans as the horns of mythical creatures. Thus, merchants and great rulers like Lorenzo de' Medici and Queen Elizabeth I paid huge sums for these tusks, considering them symbols of power and protection. Even the Grand Inquisitor Thomas de Torquemada did not travel without a piece of such a horn, believing that it could save his life from heretics. With the development of science and the progress of research methods, belief in the miraculous properties of unicorn horns has subsided, and now they remain only exhibits in museums, a reminder of how legends and reality were intertwined in human history. Tomb of Tutankhamun. This discovery became one of the most famous archaeological finds of the 20th century. It is the final resting place of the young pharaoh who ruled Egypt from 1332 to 1323 BC during the 18th dynasty. Unlike other royal tombs, its size and decoration are quite modest, which is probably due to the unexpected death of Tutankhamun at a young age. Perhaps this tomb was not originally intended for the pharaoh, but was adapted for him due to lack of time. Despite its modest size, the tomb surprised researchers with the number and magnificence of the burial items. Among the finds were gold jewelry, household items, a throne, furniture, clothing, and of course, the famous golden burial mask of Tutankhamun, which became a symbol of ancient Egyptian culture. In total, more than 5,000 artifacts were found, each of which helped to reveal important details about the life and death of the pharaohs. The tomb was discovered in 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter and his team. Their discovery caused quite a stir around the world, not only because of the enormous amount of wealth, but also because of the exceptional preservation of the artifacts, which shed light on the reign of Tutankhamun. The most important difference between Tutankhamun's tomb and all others is its preservation. It has been preserved in its original form. This discovery was a landmark event in Egyptology and remains one of the most important archaeological discoveries of all time. Let's hope it is not the last. Secret tunnels under London. During construction work in London, a forgotten network of secret tunnels running underneath the city is discovered. These underground corridors are believed to have been used by military and government agencies during World War II, both to protect against German bombing and to conduct covert operations. The tunnels extend for several kilometers under the central part of the city, forming a complex network that once served as a hidden arterial route for the movement of people and important documents, as well as for secret meetings of military commanders and government officials. Some of these underground passages lead to buildings of strategic importance, including military headquarters and government bunkers. The discovery confirms numerous rumors and legends of London residents about the existence of an extensive network of tunnels under the city. Until now, most of these underground structures remained unexplored due to their secret status and limited access. Archaeologists and historians say the discovery is important for understanding how London sought to protect its infrastructure and key individuals during the most tense years of the war. Inside the tunnels, remains of ancient communications, military equipment, and even personal belongings have been found, making them a valuable source for studying the daily life of the time. Research and conservation of the discovered tunnels continues and promises to reveal even more secrets about life and the defense of Britain's capital during the dark years of the Second World War. Idol of Gorbunovsky Peat Bog. The Gorbunovsky Peat Bog, located in the Urals, is an outstanding monument of the Paleolithic and Bronze Age, becoming the first archaeological discovery of its kind in Russia. On the site of the modern swamp, there was once a lake, on the shore of which people built platforms, leaving behind dwellings, tools, and vessels. Over time, the area became swampy, but this did not stop people from settling the territory, which is confirmed by finds of coal chips. Among the unique artifacts found here was a boomerang and a wooden idol carved from a pine trunk with a disproportionately long body and a detailed head, making it different from other finds. This idol, discovered under the wall of the excavation, is now kept in the Nizhny Tagil Museum. In addition, an idol head with primitive processing and another idol with a simplified body shape were found, both of which are now in the collection of the State Historical Museum. These artifacts demonstrate particular care in the manufacture of objects of everyday use and accuracy in depicting the forms of animals and birds. Anthropomorphic images, however, are made crudely and schematically, which may be associated with ancient beliefs about the depiction of the spirits of the dead. It is assumed that due to the fear of connecting a spirit with its image, wooden sculptures were made conventional and deliberately unrealistic. This approach to creating human images testifies to the deeply rooted traditions and beliefs of the ancient inhabitants of the Urals. One of the oldest books, the Crosby-Schøyen Codex, a rare manuscript that revolutionized the study of Christianity, was sold on June 11, 2024 at Christie's in London for nearly $3.9 million. Created in mid-4th century Egypt, this codex contains biblical and other early Christian texts, making it unique for the study of Christian history. The codex was found along with more than 20 other manuscripts near Dishna, Egypt in 1952. These documents are known as the Bodmer Papyri, named after the Swiss collector Martin Bodmer. The codex includes 5 early Christian texts in Coptic, including the earliest known texts of the Book of Jonah and 1 Peter. These texts are important for understanding early Christian literature and culture. The codex represents an early example of the transition from scroll to book. The codex consists of 104 pages of papyrus that were previously sewn together but are now behind protective plexiglass. This transitional period is important for the history of writing and books as it indicates the evolution of writing technologies. The codex was rewritten by the same scribe, probably an Egyptian monk, in the 3rd century AD. He used freshly cut reeds as a feather. The preservation of the codex is explained by the dry climate of Egypt, which allowed it to survive more than 1,700 years. Altamira Cave. In the province of Cantabria, Spain, is one of the most famous caves with prehistoric art in the world. These polychrome cave paintings, which are between 15000 and 36000 years old, belong to the Magdalenian culture of the late Paleolithic. The walls of the cave depict realistic scenes of animals such as bison, horses, and deer, made with charcoal and natural pigments. In addition to the animals, there are also human handprints, which gives this place not only artistic but also deep symbolic value. The cave was accidentally discovered in 1868 by a local resident, Modesto Cubillas, but it gained worldwide fame thanks to the research of Marcelino Sanz de Sautuola in the late 19th century. His work helped convince the world that these works of art were created by prehistoric man, because for a long time scientists believed that these drawings were modern. The Altamira Cave offers a unique insight into the art and life of ancient people. The complexity and expressiveness of the drawings testify to the advanced culture and creativity of the primitive artists. Access to the original cave is currently restricted to preserve these unique works, but there is a museum nearby with an exact copy of the drawings, allowing visitors to experience the grandeur of this ancient gallery. Secret Manhattan Project. There is one type of weapon in the world, the presence of which radically changes the country's position on the geopolitical map of the world: atomic weapons. During the dark times of World War II, when the world was divided by terrible events, a group of eminent scientists gathered in a secret location to work on a project that could radically change the course of history. This project was called Manhattan, the mission to create the first atomic bomb. It was a race against time and science, where the stakes were higher than ever. The spark that ignited the Manhattan Project came from a small group of Jewish refugees who came to the United States seeking refuge from Nazi Germany. They warned that atomic weapons were being developed in Berlin. Surprisingly, all information about this development was open and available for study. But behind these great scientific discoveries and engineering achievements lay a deep inner struggle. Newly discovered personal letters and diaries of scientists who worked on the project provide new insight into their experiences and thoughts. These documents recount the doubts and ethical dilemmas these men faced as they weighed the consequences of their inventions. In their notes, one can find questions about the morality of creating weapons of such destructive power and about the future of humanity after their use. Scientists asked the question, are we saving the world by creating such weapons, or are we opening a Pandora's box whose consequences cannot be reversed? These letters and diaries give us a glimpse into the souls of the people behind one of the most significant and controversial scientific advances in history. They show that even in the process of creating great inventions, scientists remained first and foremost people, with fear, doubt, and hope. The scientists worked under the guidance of physicist Robert Oppenheimer, who a few years later would be called the father of atomic weapons. Just recently, a movie was even made on this topic. Ball of yarn. 3 balls of yarn dating back 3,000 years have been found during excavations at an ancient Bronze Age site in England known as Britain's Pompeii. They were discovered in underground houses built in swampy areas. One of the balls was charred, raising questions about how it could have survived the fire without being damaged. The composition of the yarn has not yet been established due to the fragility of the artifacts. The lack of information about the composition of yarn causes controversy among scientists, especially when it comes to materials such as wool or plant fibers. It is assumed that the balls found could have been made from flax or nettle. All this suggests that the history of knitting and the use of textile materials in ancient times remains poorly understood and full of mysteries. Archaeologists are still trying to determine the purpose of these ancient textiles, many of which may have been lost or damaged in the fire that destroyed the settlement. This makes the task of reconstructing historical context even more difficult. Mysterious stumps on the seashore. The purpose of the mysterious Bronze Age structure known as Seahenge has long puzzled archaeologists since its discovery in 1999 on a beach in Norfolk, England. However, recently, scientists seem to have unraveled its mystery. Seahenge, or Hill 1, is an upturned oak stump surrounded by 55 split trunks. It was built in the late spring of 2049 BC on a salt marsh protected by dunes and mudflats. Amateur archaeologist John Lorimer discovered the site when he spotted a bronze axe head in the sand. He started digging and found a tree stump with a ritual ring around it. This discovery caused strong protests from local residents, but archaeologists took Hill 1 to the Lynn Museum where parts of it were protected with wax. Hill 2, found nearby and left in place, was almost completely destroyed by the tides. Archaeologists suggest that these structures were built to control the weather. In those days, the climate was harsh with frosty winters and late springs, which greatly affected agriculture. The Seahenge logs were cut in the spring and positioned to coincide with sunrise on the summer solstice. This is due to the belief that the cuckoo, symbolizing fertility, returns to the other world, and with it, summer goes away. The ritual with the cuckoo was supposed to catch it in order to prolong the summer. At the center of Hill 2, sacrifices were made to Venus, which was believed to help agriculture. These rituals were performed every 8 years according to the cycle of Venus. Thus, both monuments sought, in different ways, to put an end to the harsh cold. Odessa Catacombs. Huge underground labyrinths are hidden underground in Odessa. The year of the first stay of people in it is considered to be 1813. This is the year written on the wall. During these years, there was a plague epidemic in the city. Perhaps the catacombs served as a shelter for local residents. During World War II, when the city was occupied from 1941 to 1944, these dark and labyrinthine dungeons became a secret hideout for partisan heroes. Imagine a network of underground paths more than 2,500 kilometers long where you can get lost, like in a huge anthill. It was here in the dark and cold that the partisans set up their secret bases. They lived in these dungeons, planned attacks on the enemy, and even printed leaflets calling on people to resist. The catacombs were an ideal place for secretive fighting. The enemy could not easily find or capture them. The partisans used their knowledge of underground labyrinths to shock the enemy, suddenly appearing where they were not expected and disappearing without a trace. It was dark, damp, and very difficult to live in these dungeons, but thanks to the courage and resourcefulness of the partisans, the catacombs became one of the symbols of the unbroken spirit of Odessa. In fact, the history of these labyrinths is so ancient that it has even acquired some legends. One of which says that in the depths of the catacombs lives a short man covered with wool. To survive, he eats bats. The world's first trash can. Archaeological excavations in the area known as Britain's Pompeii have revealed surprising facts about ancient waste disposal methods. The discovery, made at Must Farm near Peterborough, turned out to be an ancient equivalent of a rubbish bin, which is up to 3,000 years old. This object, made from 2 pieces of wood, contained broken metal objects ready to be melted down. This demonstrates a progressive approach to recycling among Bronze Age communities. The study allowed us to delve deeper into the lives of people who lived in 850 BC. The discovery of the remains of 10 roundhouses, destroyed by fire and preserved in the mud, has provided unique insights into the life of a community of 60 people. The discovery of a bin used to collect scrap metal has upended ideas about the primitiveness of the time, highlighting the sophistication and practicality of ancient people in the field of waste disposal. Must Farm is a veritable time capsule that preserves not only unique artifacts, but also an entire Bronze Age settlement, including Britain's only round tent settlement and a collection of glass beads that has no analogs in the country. Slab with Mayan glyphs. Archaeologists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History have discovered a huge stone panel carved into the bottom of a sacred pool in Coba, on the Yucatan Peninsula in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo. Coba, an ancient Mayan city, flourished between 500 and 900 AD and reached a population of about 50,000 people. Recent excavations have revealed a monumental panel with 123 Mayan glyphs carved into the bottom of a sacred pool near the 42-meter-high Nohok-Mul Pyramid. The glyphs form an L-shaped figure over an area of over 11 square meters. Epigraphic studies have revealed the name of the previously unknown ruler of Koba, Kawil Chakchin, who adopted the name of the lightning god Kowil. The glyphs also mention the founding of the city of Kewitsnal in 569 CE and dynastic rulers such as Bolon Sakabahau. Archaeologists are currently working to preserve the eroded site and create a 3D reconstruction for future research. Tomb of Philip II of Macedon. Discovered in Vergina in northern Greece in the late 1970s, the tomb of Philip II of Macedon is one of the most significant archaeological finds in the history of ancient Macedonia. Situated near the necropolis of the ancient capital of Macedonia, Agi, the tombs are believed to be the final resting place of Philip II, the king of Macedonia and father of the great conqueror Alexander the Great. The tomb is distinguished by the splendor and wealth of the buried artifacts. Archaeologists found weapons, armor, gold and silver objects, including unique precious ossuaries, vessels for storing cremated remains. One of the ossuaries, decorated with a golden wreath of oak leaves and acorns, contained bones believed to belong to Philip II himself. This discovery not only confirmed ancient descriptions of the greatness of the Macedonian kings, but also provided new information about the cultural and burial rites of the elite of that time. The armor and weapons found near the remains indicate the important role of military affairs in the life of Philip II, who not only strengthened Macedonia but also prepared the ground for the future conquests of his son, Alexander the Great. Hitler's Wolf's Lair. Hidden deep in the forests of Poland lies a mysterious place known as the Wolf's Lair. This is not just a forest, but a whole city underground with secret bunkers, where Hitler and his inner circle spent a lot of time during the war. Imagine underground houses where big plans were discussed and mysterious strategies were made. Archaeologists, like detectives, delve into these places and find things that tell us about the life of the Nazis at that time. They found personal items, maps, and even old letters that seem to whisper stories from the past. These objects help us find out how the people who created the war plans actually lived and thought. About 200 objects were built on an area of 250 hectares. These included air raid shelters, lighter concrete and brick structures, and wooden barracks. The headquarters had 2 landing sites and a railway station. The walls of the buildings were covered with a mixture of seaweed and green paint, which when the solution was added turned into a green, naturally uneven and porous plaster. A very sophisticated psychological disguise was also used. In particular, it was about the fact that the people who worked on the construction of the Wolf's Lair had civilian passports. Nowadays, you can go to the Wolf's Den as a tourist. For a small fee, you can visit the places where Hitler and his entire retinue directly lived, but there is another area that is free for everyone. Lampshade from Buchenwald. In April 1945, when the United States liberated the Buchenwald concentration camp, Karl Straub, a political prisoner, discovered a lampshade made of human skin in the house of SS officers. From then until 1990, during the GDR era, the lampshade was displayed in a museum located on the site of the former camp, becoming a symbol of Nazi horror. It was later removed from public display, sparking controversy over its origin, whether it was actually leather or plastic. Recently, a conference was held at the Buchenwald Museum with the participation of Mark Benecke, a criminal biologist who, after a detailed examination, confirmed that the lampshade was made of human skin. The museum emphasized that although the display of human remains at exhibitions is contrary to ethical standards, they preserve such exhibits in the collection as evidence of Nazi crimes. Ultra-rare discovery. A rare mastodon tusk was found in Florida, which became a real sensation. 29-year-old Alex Lundberg, while diving with his friend near Venice Beach, came across this unique artifact. Typically, only prehistoric shark teeth and fragments of mammoth tusks are found in this area, which makes Lundberg's find especially valuable. Experts from the Bishop Bradenton Museum of Science and Nature confirmed the authenticity of the tusk, labeling it as ultra-rare. Lundberg has yet to notify the Florida Museum of Natural History to assess the scientific significance of the find. Mastodon tusks are typically only a few inches long and sell for $20 to $350. However, Lundberg's find could be worth about $5,000. Interestingly, the tusk did not fall apart when lifted from the seabed. Mastodons, which lived 5.4 million years ago and became extinct about 10,000 years ago, were relatives of modern elephants. Their fossils are usually found in Pliocene and Pleistocene sediments. Interestingly, mastodon fossils, including tusks, bones, and skulls, are typically found in only 4 U.S. states: Indiana, Colorado, California, and New York. The Florida find therefore represents a rare and significant discovery. The Qumran Scrolls. These ancient Jewish manuscripts were discovered between 1946 and 1956 in the caves of Qumran near the Dead Sea and revolutionized our understanding of the religious and cultural life of the Second Temple period. The texts cover the period from the 3rd century BC to the 1st century AD and include some of the earliest known versions of biblical books, as well as extra-biblical and deuterocanonical texts, including liturgical, apocalyptic, and legal documents. The biblical manuscripts are especially valuable as they allow us to trace the development of the text of Scripture and provide unique comparative material for analyzing changes in religious texts of the time. These scrolls include fragments of almost all the books of the Old Testament except for the Book of Esther, as well as texts that were previously unknown or lost. The scrolls were likely created or preserved by the Essene community living in the Qumran area. Today, most of the scrolls are kept in the Shrine of the Book at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, and their study continues. Secret documents of the Yalta Conference. In February 1945, as World War II was drawing to a close, 3 of the most powerful men of the time, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Soviet Union leader Joseph Stalin, met in Yalta, a city on the Black Sea, which was then part of the USSR. This meeting went down in history as the Yalta Conference. The leaders' task was to discuss and decide how the world would be structured after the fall of Nazi Germany to ensure long-term peace and security. Newly discovered and released secret documents from that conference shed light on the complex negotiations and diplomatic maneuvers that took place behind closed doors. These materials include minutes of meetings, personal letters, and the diaries of participants, through which we can see how decisions were formed regarding the borders of countries, the reconstruction of destroyed territories, and the creation of the United Nations. Particularly intriguing are discussions of the division of Germany into occupation zones, which subsequently led to the long division of the country into East and West Germany, and plans for Poland, which caused many disputes and controversy. The documents also discuss the fate of other countries in Europe and Asia, including questions about economic recovery, war crimes, and the future world order. And it would seem that the Yalta Conference marked the beginning of peace on our planet. However, this is geopolitics, and everything is not so simple here. After the defeat of Nazi Germany, new wars and conflicts began in the world, which do not end to this day. The most interesting thing is that the main players are the same, and the world is still in tension and a few steps away from the start of a new Third World War, with the possible use of those same atomic weapons. In one of the previous videos, I also talked about 20 incredible discoveries of the Second World War. I recommend that you watch it as well. See you in new videos.